All right, settle in because this isn't just another story about some neighbor feud or a petty HOA dispute. No, this is about the moment when the rules that are supposed to keep a community safe and orderly get twisted, warped into a shield for the people in power and a weapon against the rest of us. This is about the day a man named Ryan Cooper discovered the president of his homeowners association had let herself into his house while he was out of state. Calm, as you please. Clipboard in hand, unaware she was being watched the entire time, and even less aware there was a pit bull named Bruno waiting for her just down the hall. But if you think this is a story about revenge or a dog on the loose, you'd be dead wrong. See, this is about patience, about someone fighting back the only way that works when the system's stacked against you, using evidence procedure and a hell of a lot of self-control. And I'll tell you right now, if you've ever felt powerless against the kind of people who hide behind community guidelines to control everyone else, this one's for you. It started in the most ordinary way possible. I was 3 states away sitting on my mom's worn-out couch in Ohio when my phone lit up, motion detected. Front door. My first thought, Amazon package. Maybe the neighbor's kid straying too close. But out of habit, I swiped open the camera app expecting absolutely nothing. And then I just froze. There was a woman standing in my foyer, not on the porch inside. Middle-aged navy blazer, clipboard in one hand, pen in the other. She didn't sneak around. She didn't look guilty. She moved through my house like she'd done it 100 times, slow, methodical, as if she owned the place. It took me a minute to place her. I'd only seen her once at an HOA meeting I'd gone to just to avoid a fine. But then I saw her check my countertops for dust, and it clicked. Linda Ashford, president of the HOA enforcer of every ridiculous violation letter that ever showed up in my mailbox. And here she was, walking through my living room, uninvited, while I watched helplessly from 1,000 miles away. Then I heard it, Bruno, my pit bull, going nuts behind the bedroom door. That bark, deep and guttural, only comes out for strangers. Linda didn't even blink. She jotted a note on her clipboard, took out her phone, and snapped a picture of the bedroom door. She stood there just listening, calculating like she was deciding what to write in her next report. Every muscle in my body screamed to hit that intercom to demand what the hell she was doing. But I knew how that would play out. She'd spin some story about being concerned, claim HOA authority, and by the time the cops arrived, I'd be the overreacting homeowner and she'd be the diligent community leader. That's the thing about people like Linda. They don't panic. They prepare. So I shut my mouth and let the cameras run. For 47 excruciating minutes, she wandered my house. Cabinets under the sink, photos of my windows and baseboards, even spent 2 minutes in the guest bathroom where I didn't have a camera. Every moment felt like someone pawing through the private corners of my life. When she finally left, she locked up behind her, no sign of guilt, just the slow, confident steps of someone who truly believes the rules are for everyone else. It hit me then the contractor code I'd given for some gutter work last spring must have found its way to her. I'd handed her the key, and now she used it like a privilege. I sat there on my mom's couch holding my phone with sweaty hands, feeling like a trespasser in my own life. I'll be honest, I wanted to call the cops, book a flight storm. Her doorstep let her have it loud and messy. But that's what people like Linda count on. They want you loud, they want you angry, so they can write you off as unstable. So instead, I started downloading footage, opened a folder called Evidence, and got to work. That night, I tore through every email from the HOA, every line of the CCNR, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions we all sign without reading. Nothing gave her the right to enter my home except in a documented emergency, and this sure as hell wasn't one. The inspection notice she sent, purely exterior, vague on purpose, so people like Linda could make it mean whatever they wanted. Sleep wasn't happening, so I started building my case. Screenshots, timelines, CCNR clauses highlighted every rule she'd broken, mapped against every minute she spent in my house. By the time the sun came up, I had 3 folders: evidence, communications, legal analysis, and something I hadn't felt since that camera alert, a sense of control. I flew home early, told my mom it was work, and drove back to a house that suddenly felt contaminated. Bruno nearly bowled me over at the door, whining, probably wondering why I'd left him alone with a stranger. I checked every room. Shoes in the wrong place, TV remote, moved filing cabinet cracked open. Nothing missing, but everything violated. Now it was time to find proof that Linda hadn't just skipped procedure but had intentionally hidden her tracks. No meeting minutes, no email notifications, no official record of any inspection at my address. I called the management company, recorded the whole thing, thanks to state law, and got it in writing. No inspection, no report, nothing. To the world, Linda's break-in had never happened. Here's where most people call the police. But I knew how these things go. Call too soon and it becomes a civil matter. Linda would have time to invent paperwork, get the board on her side, and bury me in technicalities. I needed a pattern, not just a complaint. So I started knocking on doors. Jim Holloway, retired electrician, lived alone down the block. He'd come back from a trip to find his home disturbed papers out of order. A window unlocked a fake notice from the HOA about a non-existent water leak. The management company had no record. When he brought it up at a meeting, Linda made him look senile. Then there was Megan Porter, flight attendant, always traveling. She came home once to an unlocked back door, filed a police report. Nothing, stolen, case closed. Turns out Linda had a master key to the back gates, supposedly for emergencies. The Sullivans, older couple, found things moved, drawers open after long trips, but figured it was old age or forgetfulness. 5 people, 5 stories, always, when the owner was away, always dismissed or ignored. And when someone tried to post about it on the neighborhood forum, the post was deleted within hours by a board member. That night I built a chart, dates, durations, targets, all isolated, all unlikely to be believed. Linda hadn't picked at random. She'd picked people she could gaslight. I realized we'd all been living on an island thinking we were alone. But here's the twist. Knowing all that, I still couldn't just pounce. If I went to the police, Linda would know she was cornered. She'd rally her allies, maybe fabricate records, and spin the board into believing she was the real victim. The only way to win was to let her hang herself with her own words on her own letterhead. I changed every lock, every access code, set up more cameras. And then I waited. 2 weeks passed. Nothing. Then came the letter, notice of violation, unauthorized pet breed. Apparently during a routine property assessment, Linda had observed a restricted animal, Bruno. I had 30 days to get rid of him or appeal. The thing is, the CCNR said nothing about breed restrictions, only about aggressive behavior. No such complaints existed, and the date matched her little adventure through my house. She'd used her unauthorized entry to gather evidence for a violation that wasn't even real. That was the mistake I needed. Now I had her letter, the footage, the management company's confirmation, witness statements, the whole ugly story, documented, time-stamped, ready for court. I sent it all to my attorney. He said it was strong, but Linda could still argue implied consent because of the inspection notice. He advised me to wait to see if she slipped up again or doubled down at the appeal hearing. Either way, I was ready. The day before the hearing, I realized the HOA board wasn't going to help. 2 of them were Linda's old friends, and the secretary had co-signed half the violation notices in the neighborhood. The hearing would be a kangaroo court. So instead, I walked into the sheriff's office, evidence in hand. The deputy listened, reviewed my case for nearly an hour, then asked if I'd be available later that day. He drove to Linda's house, citation book in hand. I watched from my car as Linda answered the door, confident as ever, until the deputy started asking questions. Do you have written authorization to enter this home? He showed her the printout, the footage, the CCNR. Her answers dried up quick. She tried to spin it, said it was an HOA matter, tried to kick it back to the board. The deputy wasn't having it. Trespassing isn't a civil dispute, it's a crime. He handed her the citation, class 1 misdemeanor, court date set. After 6 years of running the HOA like her own personal fiefdom, Linda had a criminal charge on her record. And while I knew that wasn't the end, the shift was real. The next weeks were tense. Linda tried to rally support, but the evidence was ironclad. 3 months later, she pleaded guilty, probation, a fine, community service, and her resignation from the HOA. The board passed a new rule: no one enters a home without written consent, period. The silence at the next HOA meeting said it all. Nobody clapped, nobody offered her sympathy. Bruno's violation was quietly dropped. And for the first time since buying my house, I felt like it really was mine. Not just because of a title, but because I'd stood up for it methodically, quietly, with facts, not rage. If you're still listening, here's what I want you to take away. The slow path to justice is the only one that works against people who twist procedure to serve themselves. Document everything. Build your case. Don't let anger be the reason you lose. Let receipts do the talking. So let me throw this out there. When someone who's held power over a community finally faces the music, is that justice or just the end of a single chapter? Where's the line between authority and abuse? And what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Drop your thoughts below. Share your stories, your advice, your outrage. Because one angry voice is easy to dismiss. But when enough people compare notes, a pattern forms. And nobody gets away with it forever.